What was the impact of cultural clashes on secession? Have you ever wondered how cultural differences can shape a nation's history? In the case of the American Civil War, these differences played a major role in the decision of Southern states to secede from the Union. The cultural clashes between the North and South were not just about politics. They were deeply rooted in differing social and economic systems. By the mid-19th century, the North had become more industrialized and urban. It was thriving with a growing infrastructure for transportation and communication. The North was home to various religious groups, including those who opposed slavery on moral grounds. On the other hand, the South remained largely rural and agrarian. Its economy depended heavily on large plantations that produced cash crops like cotton and tobacco, relying on enslaved African Americans for labor. These economic differences led to distinct cultural identities. The South viewed enslaved people as property and essential to their wealth and social order. In contrast, the North was moving away from slavery and increasingly opposed its expansion. This created a cultural divide where Northerners sought to limit or abolish slavery, while Southerners aimed to preserve and expand it. The conflict over slavery was not merely an economic issue. It was a cultural clash about freedom, labor, and race in American society. Southern leaders framed their secession as a defense of their way of life and states' rights. They believed that the federal government was threatening their cultural and economic systems by opposing slavery. Meanwhile, Northern leaders saw secession as unconstitutional and a threat to national unity. This cultural conflict was evident in the declarations of secession from Southern states. These documents emphasized the protection of slavery as a central cause for their break from the Union. The political crisis fueled by these cultural differences made compromise nearly impossible, leading directly to the outbreak of war. Even after the war, the cultural divide persisted and arguably widened. The South faced military occupation and forced reforms during Reconstruction, while the North continued its industrial growth. The legacy of these cultural clashes shaped American society long after the conflict ended. In summary, the impact of cultural clashes on secession was profound. They created irreconcilable differences over slavery and social order that led Southern states to break away from the Union, triggering the Civil War. These cultural divisions defined the political and military conflict and influenced the nation's path for decades to come.